This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to The Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast since 2015. We were talking offline, off air, off the microphone, which I never want to have any conversation off the microphone, but I had one the other day, and somebody was asking me, they were recently divorced, and they were talking about how they should fill out their dating profile, and they said that they really like to travel, and they want to find somebody to travel with. And I said that most people put some variation on need to travel, love to travel, have global entry, need an active passport, all of these kind of things on that. First of all, a lot of people like to travel because they don't have anybody to stay home with. I do believe that. A lot of people want to roam nomadically. But the second part of that, the odds of finding somebody that not just loves to travel, but loves to travel in the same way that you do, to the same places that you do, to the same activities that you do, that's a little bit tougher bullseye to hit. And trust me, I have dated some of the worst travelers from security line to hotel than you could ever imagine. And then about 10 years ago, I was going to a wedding in Cadaqués, Spain, which is just sort of north of Barcelona. You invite me to any wedding, I'm going to go. I don't care if it's out of the way. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to spend an extra week roaming around Europe by myself, which I hadn't really done because I thought it was weird. And I loved it. I loved the freedom of it. I loved setting my own itinerary. I loved seeing what I want to see and doing what I want to do. And I surprisingly ran into a lot of people who were doing the same thing. I was actually more engaged traveling by myself than I ordinarily would have been. Long story short, as we get up back out in the world and turn the lights back on, hopefully, one of the things that most of us missed out on over the last 18 months or 2 years was traveling. A lot of countries do not and did not want us. We were kind of restricted on where we can go and how we can go. So there's this backlog of resources and dreams and destinations that we all have. I know the Great Love Debate, we lost some exotic locations last year like Auckland and Singapore. Our shows were canceled, and hopefully they will have us back. But I wanted to talk today about the joy of not just traveling and not just traveling alone. So I brought in a pro who knows a lot about these things. She claims to have been to over 100 countries. I have not checked the stamps on her passport. But I will. She was, for those of you old enough to remember the Love Boat, she was literally a cruise director on the on the cruises. She is the solo travel expert. She's about as big a travel influencer as you have. And she knows kind of what the single, which is sort of a dirty word in the travel industry, the solo travel world is like. Shelby Frenette, how are you?
I'm great, Brian. Thanks so much for having me. Super excited to share.
Well, you spoke a little bit yesterday, and when people first think of solo travel, singles cruises, something like that, they imagine that there are lays and bowls of condoms and it's just you're going to an orgy.
The biggest misconception. Absolutely. Yes, solo travel, I like to call it, because singles travel does tend to evoke this emotion of get naked and it's a frat party.
Yeah.
And that is not what it is. Let me just be clear. These are adults, usually 35 to 60s plus, and they are just looking for groups of like-minded people that want to travel that also might be single. And I think I like to really sort of give a picture of most of the time over 30, if you're single, your friends are either married or broke, and you still want to go somewhere. That's the type of traveler we have.
Right.
So it's definitely one of the fun ways to not just see the world, but also meet like-minded friends and maybe a love interest. But there's not that pressure that dating has.
Right. Traveling around the world, and you go to just about any location, and there are people there from all over the world, which lends itself to curious conversation and asking where you're from and sharing experiences, which is the biggest challenge we have with dating in the first place, is we have forgotten sort of how to engage.
Yes.
But strangers in a strange land really does lend itself to breaking down those walls and communicating.
Right. You have the time. I also like to mention that, like, when you're on vacation, you're not so rushed and you're not in this like zone of checking off the boxes, you know. Also, when you're on vacation and you're not in an environment where you're actually dating, where you're just going on vacation with other people you might date, there's a whole different vibration that comes along with that, right? It's like there's not that pressure of, does he like me? Do I like him? Would I sleep with him? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's just a friendship thing. And then sometimes it often, you know, there's always going to be people that connect. And I don't plan those activities. But
And when you travel, all of us, whether it was going on spring break or family vacation, or you're just going to do whatever you're going to do, there is a side of our personality that comes out that is actually more attractive than most of our regular personalities.
Yes.
There's a sense of adventure. There's,
Yes.
there's a sense of romance. There's a sense of excitement that you might want to show that personality to
Right.
people that are not, you know, sort of the people you left behind.
yeah, it's a great way to showcase kind of the better parts of your personality intentionally, you know, because we're stressed. I mean, most of us are going for it 100%, and we're on time schedules and we have a lot of plans. And when you're on vacation, you're kind of your best self. You're your relaxed self. You're your fun self. You're your let's have a good time. Let's see what's in store kind of person. So it's really nice to have that kind of vibration come out and then meet someone, hopefully, that you connect with on a friendship basis or romantically.
And how did you get involved in this? You decided, I want to find a way to travel for free?
Yeah, it's really not that complicated.
Seems reasonable.
When I was out of college, I was meant to go and work at these top resorts, and ended up actually one of my colleagues out in UMass Amherst, she was my mentor, my psychology professor, and I was also her mentor in fitness. And she told me that she came back from a cruise. She went every 3 months. And she's like, Shelby, I know your destiny. And I was like, what? What's my destiny, Sue? And she says, you're going to be a fitness instructor on a cruise ship. And I was like, no, I'm in love. I'll never leave him. And she said, oh, honey, you'll be in love again. and so, like, senior year, we broke up. And that was one of my only heartbreaks, I have to tell you. But I was totally, like, completely blindsided. One of those kinds of breakups where I'm like, what just happened? I thought things were good. I thought you were a little stressed about finals. I had no idea. And we had these plans to go work over in Colorado, and those plans obviously ended. And I was a TA for her, so I went into one of our meetings sobbing, and I was like, Sue, what was that cruise ship thing you had for me? She said, I'll go on the site and, you know, figure this out. And so I went to Princess Cruises, and I basically called them so many times that they knew my voice. I was like, I really think it's a great idea for you to hire me.
And Princess Cruises were the love boat.
They were the
people.
love boat, right. So that was back in the 90s, late 90s. And I ended up getting a job there, and then very quickly saw that the cruise director arena was much more, you could get a lot more growth out of it. Because once you were the fitness, you were the manager, you were a 2-stripe officer. And that was great. I had a lot of perks, my own room, which was exceptional. But I saw that there wasn't any growth management-wise or monetarily. So I went down the cruise director path, and then I really was Julia McCoy from the Love Boat. That was my life.
So the cruise director's job is to come up with activities, make sure everybody's having a good time. Have you tried limbo?
Yes.
I mean, is it literally going person to person to see what their interests are? What is that like?
So that is funny. The cruise director job has changed over the years, and it's different depending upon what cruise line you're on, what kind of cruise you're on. It's different in all sorts of aspects. However, I would say in my day, you were in charge of the cruise director, the main cruise director, and then there was deputy and senior. I was up at deputy and senior cruise director status. And back then, they basically did all the hard work, and the real cruise director just came out on stage and sang a song. But you were in charge. But that's not the way it is today. And also, you were in charge of basically making sure that all the singers, dancers, musicians, all of the activities for the whole entire ship, thousands of people. Everybody had something to do. And then, of course, you had a staff, a team of cruise directors, junior cruise directors underneath you that would actually execute the limbo and so forth and so on. But it's a mixed bag because you're doing a little bit of HR, you're doing a lot of event planning. Safety is a huge thing. You know, we were trained for the safety of personnel to evacuate thousands of people at one time. So that's a part of the job that isn't really descriptive.
Titanic was a cruise.
Right. So you have to be really ready. So that part is obviously quite serious, but it's about having fun, but it's also really trying to understand how to fix a lot of problems because everything is in motion. And when you have 2,000 people, you have at least 200 problems to solve.
Did you do any sort of amateur matchmaking? Like, hey, Bob is traveling alone. Have you met him? He's in the Lido Lounge.
Yeah, so with the singles, so that's great. So this is always a question I love because I think people say, oh, I don't need to go on a cruise with a group of singles because I just go on my own. I do my own thing. And I think, well, that's nice, except for you might be eating, you're the only single person there or one other single person that took his mom on a cruise.
Right.
That's not hot. You know what I mean? Like it's sweet, but it's not hot. And it's not fun. So, we did have solo get-togethers, but they were always just kind of an excuse to just write something down and get people to the disco. There was no real genuine introduction and things for singles or solos. However, when I got off cruise ships, once I got off Princess, I came to Florida. I wanted to live in Florida and have a dog. That was my dream.
Goals.
Big
Those
goals.
are very reasonable goals.
So I got a condo and a dog. Yes.
Done.
And we ended up through the cruise director circuit, which was much smaller back then, right? This is like in the 2000s, early 2000s. They had said that there was a job opening for one of these big singles travel companies, and they needed a lead cruise director that would actually train out other cruise directors and et cetera. And I was like, oh gosh, another cruise? I don't know about that. And then sure enough, I did get the job, and I was with one of these big singles travel companies for over a dozen years. And that's how I went on over 100 cruises and trips with singles and solos, and also met thousands and thousands of singles. And there was a love connection every episode, just like on the Love Boat.
All right. I have a million more questions for you. I got to take a quick break so we can afford cruises around here, and we will be back right after this. And we are back with Shelby Frenette, and she's telling us all about her swinging single cruising days.
Swinging! Oh, geez. Now you got me.
How many people that travel solo are looking to meet someone, and how many? I mean, the biggest pool is probably people just want to travel. So let's table them. How many people are looking to meet someone, and how many are traveling to get away from someone? Like they just broke up, and I need to do the Eat, Pray, Love, and is that? I need to just get out of here. Is there a lot of those?
No, I would say
Heartbreak Boat is not one of those things?
Heartbreak Boat, no. I would say if I was just going on pure percentages, I would say truly, if you're talking about the honesty of the heart, I think most single people want and hope to meet their significant other, their partner, their travel partner for life,
Right.
I would say at least 60%, even though they're not going with that intention, like I'm going to meet a man, I'm going to meet a woman, but to go with that overarching idea of I'm going to have a great time. And if I meet someone, bonus.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's really what I tell people to come on any cruise with singles and solos to go or trip, to go on the trip with that mindset of I hope I find someone, but I'm going there to have fun.
Have fun, have an adventure, and if you meet someone, it's a bonus.
And
just
I would
like
say,
anything else.
Yeah, that's like 60%. And then there's like 20% that are, I say just like in high school, they're going for one thing and one thing only, right?
Right.
That's not as many, and those are, it's not as prevalent as you'd think, but it's like high school. There's that population, like a small part.
Is it both easier and scarier to do a singles solo cruise than a trip because you're stuck on a boat with people?
I love that, actually. Yeah, I love the whole getting on a boat and staying there with people because it really does change the dynamics because you get to see people again and again and your life is sped up. So like, for instance, let me give you an example of one of my favorite couples. Should I name them? Well, anyway, maybe we'll put it in the
called them
comments.
they're your favorite,
They're my
so.
favorite couple. They really are. Oksana and Chris. They met on a Halloween cruise. They were engaged at New Year's and married by Valentine's Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was definitely like, this has happened many times before. I've